It was just past sunset when Daniel Carter, a single dad juggling night shifts and school lunches, spotted her by the side of the road. She looked lost, frantic even. Her wedding dress was torn at the hem, her heels dangling from one hand, mascara streaked like black rivers down her cheeks. And yet, in that chaos, there was something dignified about her, like she didn't run from weakness, but toward freedom. Daniel wasn't the kind of guy who picked up strangers, not with his 6-year-old daughter Emily usually riding in the backseat. But tonight, Emily was at her grandma's, and something in the woman's eyes, some desperate flicker, made him slow down. He rolled down the window. "You all right?" She hesitated, glancing over her shoulder as if expecting someone to chase her. "Can you take me anywhere but here?" she asked, voice trembling. Daniel looked at the long stretch of road behind her and the expensive lace dress she was wearing. "Hop in," he said. She introduced herself as Leela. No last name, just Leela. The drive was quiet at first. Daniel offered his jacket. She took it wordlessly, staring out the window as the city lights blurred into countryside darkness. "I didn't think I'd do it," she finally said. "Leave him." Daniel didn't pry. He'd learned that people talked when they were ready. He just nodded, eyes on the road. He was powerful, kind in public, cruel in private. "Everyone thought I hit the jackpot," she added with a bitter laugh. Billionaire, philanthropist, smile like a campaign poster, but behind closed doors. She trailed off. Daniel tightened his grip on the steering wheel. "Why'd you help me?" she asked suddenly. He glanced at her. "You looked like you needed someone to—" Silence again. Then she whispered, "Not many would have stopped." They drove until the moon was high and gas low. Daniel pulled into a small town diner, the kind that smelled like bacon and burnt coffee. Over pie and fries, Leela opened up more. Her real name was Leela Hawthorne. Yes, that Hawthorne, the heiress who vanished an hour before her wedding to Gregory Bellamy, a man worth over $4 billion. The media was probably in a frenzy by now. Headlines blazing. "Runaway bride of billionaire vanishes before wedding of the century." "I don't want his money," she said. "I just want to remember who I am without being someone's trophy." Daniel listened. He didn't offer solutions. He just heard her. When he dropped her off at a women's shelter 2 towns over anonymously, Leela took his hand and held it for a moment longer than expected. "You helped me breathe again. You didn't know me, but you treated me like a human." He smiled softly. "Sometimes that's all any of us need." She asked for his number. He gave it, unsure if he'd ever hear from her again. Weeks passed. Daniel returned to his usual chaos, backing school lunches, unclogging drains at the high school he cleaned, and doing his best to give Emily the childhood he never had. Then one morning there was a knock at his door. Leela stood there, no makeup, no torn dress, just jeans, a sweater, and a hopeful smile. She knelt and handed Emily a stuffed unicorn. "Hi, I'm Leela. Your dad saved me once." Emily blinked, then giggled. "You look like a princess." Leela laughed. "Not anymore, but maybe that's a good thing." Leela didn't go back to Gregory. Instead, she started a nonprofit for women escaping abusive relationships called Lifted. In honor of the night, she was given a ride when she needed it most. She and Daniel didn't fall in love right away. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was slower, quieter, real, built on mutual respect, not rescue. But one evening, as they watched Emily twirl in the backyard under string lights, Leela leaned her head on Daniel's shoulder. "I used to think I needed a man to complete me," she said. "Now I know I just needed someone to see me." Daniel kissed her temple. "I saw you the moment you stopped trying to be someone else." Months passed. Leela settled into a modest apartment near Daniel's neighborhood, far from the marble halls and curated chaos of her past life. She volunteered at the shelter she once hid in, now as a mentor to women who arrived frightened and silent, just as she had. Each day brought small victories, helping someone apply for a job, holding a hand through a court hearing, making a scared child laugh. Daniel kept showing up, not to fix her, but just to be there. Quiet dinners after Emily's bedtime, long walks on evenings when Leela couldn't sleep, phone calls just to say you're doing okay. One rainy afternoon, Leela found herself sitting in the school gym where Daniel worked nights as a janitor. Emily's art project was drying in the corner, Glitter, glue, a lopsided heart. Leela looked at it and blinked back tears. Daniel came in, mop in hand, soaked from a roof leak. She smiled. "This place means more than any ballroom I've ever been in," she whispered. He chuckled, tossing her a dry towel. "Careful, that's a bold statement." "No, it's honest," she said, standing to face him. "You and Emily. You gave me something no mansion or billionaire ever could. A place I didn't have to pretend." He set the mop aside and stepped closer. "You never had to pretend with me." That night she kissed him, not out of gratitude or fairy tale drama, but because it felt like home. They didn't announce anything. There were no tabloids, no cameras, just quiet Sundays with pancakes, laughter over homework, and evenings spent on the couch with Emily sandwiched between them, falling asleep during cartoons. One day, as they drove past the city where she once almost said "I do," Leela reached over and took Daniel's hand. "I used to think running away was the bravest thing I'd ever do," she said softly, "but staying here, building that's the real courage." Daniel squeezed her hand. "Funny thing, I thought I was just giving someone a lift that night." "You did," she said, smiling. "You just didn't know you were lifting me all the way back to life." And in that little car with chipped paint and a worn seatbelt, they kept driving, forward, toward everything that mattered. A year later, their world had changed in quiet, beautiful ways. Leela's nonprofit, Lifted, had opened its second shelter, this one in the same small town where Daniel first picked her up. Survivors from all walks of life were finding safety, courage, and a future. Leela didn't just sit in the office. She was there on the front lines, reading bedtime stories to children, teaching workshops on financial independence, hugging strangers who no longer felt invisible. Daniel, meanwhile, had taken on more hours at the school, but now he wasn't just the janitor. After Leela encouraged him to chase the dream he'd buried for years, he started taking night classes, studying to become a counselor for at-risk youth. They supported each other, built each other, one brick at a time. One Saturday morning, Emily ran into their small but cozy kitchen holding a handmade card, stick, figures